here, girl.
You got a problem here, guy?
So last year was my first time experiencing a Scream film on the big screen, returning back to Woodsboro and bringing back the classic satire phenomenon known as Stab, the greatest horror franchise that never existed. The film was really good, and by far the best one since the original. So when I heard that the Scream franchise was making its return a year later, I was a bit skeptical, but it actually turned out really well. Scream 6 takes place in New York, bringing it to a whole new level. The action sequences carry a bit more creativity, and quite a bit more blood is shed than usual. The change from Woodsboro to New York was actually incredibly smart. As with so many people in public, it gives you that sense that the killer really could be anyone. The cast is the film's biggest asset here, with the core four carrying a tighter, more familiar bond, and the relationship between Sam and Tara is given more room to shine. Courtney Cox was also great to see again, and bringing Hayden Panettiere back as Kirby couldn't have made me happier. Some people felt that Sidney Prescott's absence was noticed during their viewing experience, but I was personally completely fine without her. In the last film, she felt unnaturally weaved in, and while there's nothing wrong with a little bit of fan service here and there, it would have been strange to have her travel all the way to New York just to fight Ghostface again. So I was actually quite content with the decision to move on without her, and I think they gave her good closure, for a Scream franchise at least. In terms of who took the cake in this film, I thought Mindy was great this time around. I like that she's essentially the Randy Meeks replacement, but with her own spin on it, obviously. She definitely stole the show in nearly every scene she was in, providing the audience with plenty of laughs. She's just an all-around fun character this time around, and I thought this was a much-needed change considering how little value her role had in the previous Scream installment. Now, while the film overall is pretty well done, Scream 6's biggest flaw is that it doesn't follow its own rules. And what I mean by this is that in the previous Scream film, Dewey was one of the OGs that was brutally killed off. So once we heard Mindy's speech in this film, I think we can all agree we expected more. Without giving away spoilers, I'll just say that the writers unfortunately did not honor this promise that was set in the beginning. There are moments where characters should have clearly died, but don't, simply based on the possibility another film may happen. Personally, I think killing off one of its biggest characters might have made the potential sequel even more exciting to wait for, because there's a possibility of adding more violence and emotion to certain scenes that could really showcase their loss. For me, the lack of deaths in the second half of the film really killed the suspense for me, and even at moments caused me to almost get bored. Regardless on how you spin it, it just feels unrealistic and a little disappointing. In the future, if the writers continue to expand the Scream franchise, there has to be a clear objective on what the core four means to future films. Are we guaranteeing them plot armor in the next couple of movies for the sake of entertainment, or will they take risks that may kill off fan favorites, but in the end will lead to a much more unique Ghostface experience? There is definitely still opportunity to keep the Scream franchise alive, but if they want to keep fans immersed, there has to be some wiggle room when it comes to changing it up a little. All complaints aside though, Scream 6 is awesome, and a nice change of pace from what I've been normally watching. If you're just in the mood for something a little different, or could use a combination of laughs and scares, well, then I'd say you're in for a treat. For more reviews and discussion videos on films and video games, stick with Marcus Network.